Hello, I'm Sharon Wade, and I'm here hosted by the Gaylord Area Council for the Arts. And we have received wonderful funding from Michigan Council for the Arts and Cultural Affairs and the National Endowment for the Arts. And so we're able to put on these little videos to help just give us a chance to explain some of the things we know how to do. And one thing I love to do is soft pastel. And so I would love to just go through a soft pastel painting with you and show you how we do it, and maybe add some of the papers and why I choose the pastels I've chosen. I've worked as a high school art teacher for a lot of years overseas in international school in Thailand, and I love art. And I love teaching, and I love the experience of showing people the light bulb that goes on when people get it and when they create something. And I think we're all creators, so it's just a wonderful opportunity for me. When I came back to northern Michigan, or actually when I moved up here from Asia, I'm just so enthralled with the beauty around here and the landscapes and the Great Lakes and the oceans. And so that's what I've been concentrating on. And I've also been concentrating on soft pastel because I think the colors in soft pastel really lend itself to recreating the beauty that we see. And so just a few, to introduce myself, just a few of my paintings. This one is called Watercolors, and I just think soft pastel allows us to bring the colors that we see in nature, and you can blend them and even create details with them, which a lot of people don't believe. And then here's another one just of the dunes out by Fisherman's Island that I was able to recreate in pastel. And today we are going to work on this piece. This one was taken near Fisherman's Island State Park in Charlevoix. And I've done it in several different ways. I'll show you one way today, and then I'll show you some examples of other ways you can do this piece. This will be the photo, one of my photos that I took, and this is the one we're going to recreate. And so this photo would be available, I think, here from GACA if you would like to follow along. But just as a really brief introduction, I wanted to show you what I use in pastels. There's a lot of choices out there now. Service Reprographics in Grand Rapids, you can go into that store and just pull out drawers and drawers of just so many different kinds of pastel. And also you can get some at Hobby Lobby, and I've seen some at Arnie's in Houghton Lake, and order online. But I wanted to show you what I've used and what I've been able to get and what works for me. And pastel goes from a harder pastel to a softer pastel. And the harder pastels have more binder in them. The softer pastels have more pigment. And you'll see as I demonstrate the differences. And I like to have a range of hard, medium, and soft pastel to use because they work differently on paper. So let me introduce some things I have. This is a set. I am overjoyed because I've got a bigger set of 96, but this is Prismacolor Premier Nupastel. And what it looks like inside are sticks like this. And there's actually 2 layers, and there's colors underneath too. I don't know if I can pull them out and show you. But beautiful colors of pastel. And these are a harder pastel, so they would be with more binder in them. They are great for mark making, for doing little detail work, for sketching, for adding those little colors on top of things just at the end. And so every pastel artist that I follow online, they all have a set of these. So this seems to be a highly recommended set. Put this away. And then the next set, which you can actually get here locally in Gaylord, is just a Master Touch. It's a student grade set. But why I love this is that I can put background down on my paper. And it comes with lots of lovely colors, and it also has a sharp edge to the pieces. So every once in a while when I want to get a sharp edge on a building or something, I've got this really sharp edge that I love to use. You can see mine's getting well loved. This is actually my second set, so I'm breaking it in. One thing about pastel is you don't have to worry about keeping it nice. You can break it up into little pieces. Actually, you want little pieces for a lot of your drawings. And so I know it's nice to get a new set, but it's also fun to get all the pieces and to be able to use them. Okay, I just brought a few of my really soft pastels. So I would put this in more the hard pastel. Now there's a soft, Rembrandt is a great brand for soft in the middle. And then we're starting to get to the softer, which has more pigment. And this is a Jack Richeson. And these are just luscious colors. They just come off and blend really nicely. So these have more pigment in them to use on your paper. You can build up layers with these you'll have to try it to see. The other set that I have is a Sennellier. And Sennellier is made in France. I think they were made in the 1800s. Pastels, and there's over 500 colors of Sennellier. And this is a very soft pastel, and I'll show you on paper, but you can see it just goes on beautifully. And then another one that I've gotten a set for Christmas. These are getting more expensive, but if you wait for birthdays and Christmas, you can get wonderful sets. This is a Terry Ludwig. And this is a very soft, it just is, I think the word would be luscious in your pastels. So these would be on my soft side. So I would have a Nupastel from the hard side, and then I use my Master's Touch from Hobby Lobby here, and then I'll use my Richeson, and then I'll go up to my Sennellier, and then just for last details, when I want a really soft covering, I can use my Terry Ludwig. I do mix and match all these pastels when I'm doing a piece, and it just takes practice and getting to know how to use them. But that is the pastels. Next, I'd like to introduce some of the papers that I've used, and then I'll tell you my favorite paper. But this you can get here locally. It's Strathmore pastel paper, and it has beautiful colors, like soft colors that you can use for your backgrounds. You can see those colors. It has a little bit of a tooth to it. You can build up some nice layers on here. It's very thin, so I can't use an underpainting on it, but it's really great for quick sketches. And they have some cute notebooks locally at Hobby Lobby that I've seen that you could just take with you and do some sketches that are with this paper. And it's just, the colors are beautiful, and pastel works really well on this. The next one that I like to use is called Art Spectrum, and it's the Color Fix original papers, and these have more like a sandpaper feeling to them, so they hold a lot of pastel, and they come in some beautiful colors to give you background colors. This is really fun, like if you're doing a still life and you want the background, just add a little bit, but you also want this color coming through your piece. There's beautiful colors. There's hot colors and cool colors in packets that you can get. You can see this is a cool color packet, and it's empty because I used them all because I love the cool colors. You can see the colors in there. So this one I got online, and I ordered Art Spectrum Color Fix pastel paper. Now my favorite pastel paper to use is actually UArt Premium Sanded Pastel Paper. I actually get in big sheets, but I've actually bought, it's cheaper in sheets of like 24 by 36 inches, and then I cut it down into pieces like this I can use. This is actually a sanded paper, and when you feel it, you think it's sandpaper. It's a little bit not as hard on the fingers as sandpaper would be. I've actually tried regular sandpaper with pastel, and that works great, except it wears your pastels out really fast, and it takes your fingerprints off your fingers when you're blending. But this has if you could feel it, and there's different grades. This is a 400. There's 240, I think. There's 400, 500, and 600, I believe, that you can order. And this is my favorite. It's heavy. I don't know if you can tell. And it will hold an underpainting. So I can put water on it. I can put rubbing alcohol on it. It would even hold like an acrylic if you wanted an acrylic wash. I've actually taken, a painting I didn't like, I've actually taken this paper, put it under the sink, and rinsed everything off and scrubbed it off, let it dry, and I've used it again. So it's a really durable paper. So this is my favorite. And this is what we'll be working on today. Well, today, what I'd like to do is just go through a piece to show you the different steps that I take. This is the photo that we're going to use. Like I said before, it's from Fisherman's Island on the beach, the dunes there, and I especially love this kind of walkway of the sand into the piece, and then how these clouds just have so much character. There's even some jet plane mist going through there. And this was in the fall, obviously, and there's lots of beautiful colors, so that's fun to do in pastel. So what we want to capture today is just the feel of the brush in the back, the fluffiness of the clouds, the deep blues of the sky, and then the scrubby feeling of this stuff closer up to us. And maybe catch some of this white birch in here too, that would be pretty. So I'm going to put this picture where I can see it up here that we could use. And then I'm going to use a piece of UArt paper. This is going to be 400 grade UArt paper. It's that sandpaper feel to it. I actually, if I'm not careful, I do take my fingerprint off my fingers as I'm working. And I'm going to show you how to put it on a board. What I do is I put the sticky tape on the back, and put some sticky tape on the back here. And I'm going to put, so my stickiness is coming forward and I'm placing it on the back because tape doesn't actually stick very well to the sanded paper. I'm going to stick it up here. I use blue tape because it's cheap basically, and I don't like to spend a lot of money. Some artists don't like the blue because they think it interferes with the colors, but it doesn't really bother me. And I can use a lot of it and not feel guilty. So I'm going to put my piece down like this, stick it on here, and then I'm going to just wrap it around. And this helps flatten out the piece. I'm not covering up my paper at all. I'm just sticking down the tape, basically, right now. Got it a little close to the bottom here, but that's okay. So that's holding it down. If I feel like the corners are popping up, I'm going to give a little extra piece up here, keep the corner down. See, I waste a lot of tape. It's fine. It's blue tape. You can get lots of it at the store. And I'll stick this corner down. The corners, when they pop up, they hit along the pastel and make little marks, so going to try to get it to stay down there. Okay, so I've got my paper on here. The first thing I want to do is go through an underpainting. I'm going to do the blue of the sky first, and an underpainting is to fill in this paper to get rid of this tan. I'm going to leave it down here because I love that color within my sand. But up here, I'm going to give some blue of the sky, and I'm going to put it in with rubbing alcohol. And what I use is just plain old rubbing alcohol. I've been told 91% is the best, but when we went on COVID and it all went out of the stores, I can only get the really low percentage, and that seemed to work fine. Actually, water will work too, but it takes a lot longer to dry. So this is what we'll use. Now I'm going to look at my sky. And I've picked out some pieces already of my pastels that I own, and I'll show you these in a minute. And I'm going to move these over here. And I went through my pastels and I picked out, this is the master one, but I love this dark color up there, and then we're going to go down and fade a little bit, and I picked out this color, and then get into a little bit lighter color. You have to remember that you're the artist and you can do whatever you want. And I'm actually going to put a little bit of this green in here. So this is what my colors for my sky right here that I'm going to do for my underpainting. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I like to hold my picture and just use it as a guide, especially if I'm copying directly from something like for class today. So it's about right in here. I'm just going to give it a little bit. Actually, I'll use my lighter color. It's down at the bottom. I'm just going to see where it goes. It goes about in here. Doesn't really matter so much because we're going to cover a lot of it up, and it's going to go back over here. And I'm going to put this layer down here. I can see a bit of that light going back behind the trees. There's actually some pink in there too that we'll add later. Then I'm going to build up. My next color be this color. If you can see the picture and what I'm doing. I'm just going to build up and put it really lightly. I'm not pushing in hard, I'm just doing light. Then I'm building up my darkest color. I'm pushing in here. And I'm overlapping just a little bit. And I'm going to do my dark color. And put it in here. And you can tell this is the MasterArt. This is the one I showed you that's a harder one. So it doesn't cover as well. It's not as soft, so I have to push it a little bit harder in there. So this is what I have so far for my sky. And I'm going to use my alcohol. I have these little cups. And we pour just a little bit in here. You don't need very much. And this is my favorite brush. I just keep it, it's a number 12. It doesn't really matter. I love it for skies and things because it's a little bit bigger. But you want to have a brush designated for pastel because rubbing with the alcohol against the sandpaper will wear out your brush. So you don't want a really good brush for this. Just an old brush will do. And I am actually going to turn my paper like this because my sky has a feeling of flowing this way for most of it. So I want my alcohol to rub down this way. So this is what I'm going to do. This is the fun part. I love painting this on first. So we're going to go like this. And we're just going to bring this color with the alcohol. I'm going to bring it down here. I can add more later so I don't have to worry so much about it. I frequently keep a towel on my lap so that I can wipe off my brush if it gets too much alcohol in it. And I'm just going to let it drip down and we'll blend as I go. It's a very fun feeling. It just mushes and all blends together and does beautiful things. And skies are so creative and so beautiful that it doesn't matter if it's not perfect because no one will know. And skies, if you look at them, sometimes you'd paint a sky and no one would believe it's real. So that's kind of how my sky's looking. I might just take a little bit of these lines out. And I'm going right down into where my trees are going to go. I want that light beige. So you can see the beautiful colors flowing on there. Okay. And I'm going to let that dry. And since we want to save time, I've actually got a hair dryer. Sometimes you want to let these dry naturally just to see what kind of cool things that the alcohol is going to create. And I'll show you that when we do the scrub because I'm going to want to let it flow and go different places to get a scrubby look. But this one I want to keep pretty smooth. So I'm going to dry it. So we have a beautiful sky color. So this is what we're starting with, our sky on our pastel. I'm going to tape this back up here now so we can see it. The next underpainting I want to do, this is the piece that we're looking for, and I love purple in a piece, so because to me it gives it excitement. So I'm going to put a purple underpainting on this piece. And I'll use my Nupastel because I can sketch with it. And again, if I'm doing a piece directly like this, if I'm not outside just sketching, it's kind of fun. I just hold it and give myself some boundaries of where it goes. So this tree's going in here. So I'm going to scrub in this piece, this Nupastel a little bit up to where my trees are going. And it's going to go, I can see the flow of it's going into here a little bit and going down. I'm just going to sketch a little bit. And then I've got this dune in the back here. And I'm going to give a little bit of darkness too. This is creating my shadow areas on my piece. And purple just makes a very fun, exciting shadow area, I think. So now I'm into this area. It's about right in here. So I'm just going to scrub it in a bit. I'm just holding my pencil kind of loosely, bringing this in. There's a lot of dark going on in here. So I'm going to bring dark up in here, maybe just a tiny bit up where these trees go up in here. Just scrub it in lightly. There's a lot of dark going on in here. Put that in just a little bit where these trees go. And there's a beautiful flow on the dunes. I'm going to put this in here. Where it's going, you want the dunes to look like they're flowing in hills. So you don't want just straight lines. I do flowing. And I've got a big scrub brush down in here. And I'm going to put some of the dark where I want this dark in here. Here's another line of brush in here. I'm going to bring it as I'm watching. And I'm going to bring it down, flowing along the dune, make it fun. And I've got something big going on here. And this is real scrubby, and it's going to have more detail in it because it's closer to us. So I'm going to put that in here, make it a little darker back in there. And I'm going to bring this piece in here. And there's a little pine tree in there. I can use just the corner and get some little more detail. Bring this up here that flows this way. And there's some brush right down in here. I'll get in. And get just a little bit in here. I'm going to get a little bit more in here. And this stuff is coming down the hill here. I'll get a little teeny bit more in there. Give a little bit more back here because the purple's fun when it shows through. See, that's easy so far. It actually looks just like scribbling. So you don't have to worry so much about your drawing. Let me put this back up here. And now I'm going to take my alcohol. I actually don't worry about this part so much that has a little bit of blue in it because that'll bring some blue of the sky down in this piece, which would be fun. And I'm going to use my brush and I'm going to turn it different ways to try to create these trees a bit. And my paper towel roll is on my lap because if it gets too drippy, I can hit it on the paper towel roll and catch some of the drips. So now we're going to go in with an underpainting. I'm going to just hit it on my towel and I'm just going to go like this and I'm just going to scrub this in. And you'll see, if you can get up close, you'll see this alcohol does some beautiful stuff and creates some beautiful patterns in it already that will help with our piece and give it a scrubby look that the dunes have. The scrub brush on the dunes and go over here. So I'm basically using the corner of my brush. I don't care if it drips a little because that adds a little bit of fun to the piece. And I'm just going to go paint up here, give this trees a little bit up here. It'll dry a little bit lighter. But I'm going to bring some of this dark up in here. I'm just having fun. This is one of the most fun parts of the piece, I think. So I'm creating, and I can go back and add more dark if I get rid of too much dark. And these shadow areas are fun. This is pretty dark in here, so we'll let it get kind of dark. And this little scrub thing, I'll pull this up a little bit. Let me take some of that off. Okay, we're going to go back down here. Teeny bit going across here. And I'm going to make these feel like they're flowing down the dune also. This one is a scrubby brush tree. So let's follow the direction of the tree a little bit. I got a little too much alcohol there, so I'm going to take some of it off. Let's make it spiky and flow it out a little bit. Like that. And then these are going to come down here into the dune like shadows. This has a flow to it like this. I'm going to let it flow up like this. Capture that. A little bit down in here. actually just having a lot of fun in it. I'm not worrying a whole lot. I'm not trying to be real precise because I'm going to cover a lot of this back up, but I'm also going to leave some of this beautiful stuff that happens with the alcohol. You can see in here, it kind of gives a feeling of scrubbiness. Let me push this down in here and maybe a little bit in here. Some shadows. A little bit more in here. So that's basically what I do with the alcohol. And you can see I've got my my things in place where I'm going to start drawing. I'm letting this alcohol dry as it creates these little textury places in here. Right here you can see some beautiful things happening. That prickly brush that's in the dunes, that's going to be captured if we leave some of that in there. And just some textures in here. Makes it fun. So this one we're going to let dry for just a minute. One of the important steps in pastel painting is picking out your colors. What I prefer to do is have a tray, and then I love to look through all of my pastels and find the colors to fit the piece. We did the sky already, and I might add this little kind of a purpley piece in here. But I started thinking about what other colors I needed, and I gathered those first. Partly it keeps the piece consistent throughout, and it keeps the mess down. And it just helps me to see the colors and where I'm going. So I picked out, I can see a dark, kind of a dark green in here that I want to put in. Of course, you're the artist and you can do whatever you want. And then when you layer up trees, I wanted to go a little bit lighter with some of these colors, so I picked a lighter green. I also have this fun kind of a gold, the Richeson piece, where I could just add a little bit in here. I also picked, this is the chunk, you can see I chunk up my pieces because I like to use the edges and the pieces, the ends, to get little lines. This one will help with some of that fall color in there. I also picked out the Nupastel because I love that color in here, and just a little bit of fun with this dramatic reddish color going in here. So those are the colors I picked out for that. This is my favorite sand color right here. You can see I'm going to add this a little bit in, and I might add a bit of peach in there too, in my sand. But I'm going to leave the purple shadows, so it'll be really fun and dramatic. We'll get to the clouds in a minute, but I always have a white with me. This one's really dirty, but it's a Sennellier white. And I picked out another blue for the clouds also, just to get some of this going in here. But I also see a bit of pink down in here especially. So I wanted to add a little bit of pink in there. So basically, I gathered these colors. These are my colors. And I also chose, I forgot to talk about pastel pencils, but I have several brands of pastel pencils. I have Conte, I have Stabilo, and I have Kohinoor pastels, and they all have different grades of hardness. So I picked out some of these because in the end, we're going to want a little bit of detail. Maybe for some of the birch trees, I can just do a little flick of detail. And I like to put a little bit of blue in my scrub brush at the end, just for fun. I also added a little bit of gray. I thought some of this fun driftwoody color is in this, and I want to give a little more detail to this part in here. So what I start with first, I'm going to start with my trees and the darkest color. So I'm going to take this dark brown. You'll notice your pastels, let me show you on another piece. You'll notice your pastels get really dirty. So I always keep a paper towel with me and wipe them off. So this paper towel sits right in my lap, because you don't want a big streak of black or something across your piece when you're trying to get yellow. And I clean it off that way. So that's one great thing about paper towel. Another thing I wanted to show you was, I'll show you when I'm blending. I tend to blend with my finger, but another great blending tool is just, this is pipe insulation, and I just cut a little piece. And when I want to blend, you can just blend with this. I tend to use my finger because I just do, but this is another option for blending. And I wanted to show you this too. Maybe I'll show it as I'm demonstrating. This is a kneaded eraser. And if I end up with too much pastel in a place, I can just blot it a little bit, pull it up, clean the eraser by stretching it and pulling it, and blot up a little bit more. So here's another little technique they use. Okay, let's start with, I'm going to pick my dark color, and I'm going to start with these dark areas that I see and just put them in. I'm not going to worry, and I don't want to press really hard and cover up all this beautiful stuff that's happening. So I'm going to do kind of a scumbling technique where I'm just going to add some of the dark, and I see dark mostly around the base of this. And I'm going to let my purple show through too. So I'm going to put dark in here, but I'm going to leave some of that fun stuff happening. A little bit up in here too. Because we're going to build up layers. We're going to build up layers with our pastel. So I've got a very light touch. I'm not pushing hard. The sanded paper allows a lot of layers because the tooth of the paper will hold layer upon layer as it falls in between the teeth of the paper. And that's why the sanded paper actually allows you to build up so many more layers of pastel, which is why I love it. And I'm going to put a little bit of dark in there for these scrub trees there. This is kind of coming across here. I'm in here. I'm going to put some of this dark in here. I want to leave some of this fun stuff that's happening, so I don't want to cover it all up. This is really fun though, the scrubby stuff, so I'm going to leave that a little bit. Bring this down. I'm going to put some dark in here as I follow this. There's a big, like a bushy thing here. And my pastel, I'm also following kind of the direction of the bush. I'm giving it strokes. You can always go back and add more later, so you don't have to rush it. I'm going to go this way a little bit and bring this piece up in here. Let's see, let's go over here a little bit, and I'll add some of this dark in here. A little bit in here. Now, part of the pastel, it's just like your strokes in your painting are part of the beauty of the painting. It doesn't have to be precise and perfect. A lot of people don't like pastel because they can't get that precise detail. But in this kind of painting, you keep it loose and beautiful, more like an impressionistic painting. So we build up some layers. I might put a bit of dark in here. I'm going to follow. I love this, how it just kind of flows that way. Again, I don't want to cover up all this cool stuff that happened with the alcohol. So I'm just going to build up in here. There's a little bit happening in here. When I get to this part at the end, I will add a little bit more detail because things closer to us will have more detail. Things behind us will be fuzzier in perspective. I'm going to put a little pine tree in here. Build up some more dark in here. And remember, it doesn't have to be exactly what you see, but this just gives me an overall pattern of what I can follow. Scrub in here. Then my next step is I'm going to build up layers. I'm going to go to the next lightest green and just follow just some areas and maybe poke out into the sky a little bit. My strokes are kind of just these fun little, I'm holding my pastel very lightly, and I'm just kind of looking for, and I'm keeping some of this fun stuff happening in here. To the sky area. Well, one thing I wanted to tell you is a lot of times I will wear a glove, a surgical glove, because pastel is very drying on the hands. But what I tend to do is I'll cut off the tip of this finger because I still like to blend with my finger. I find it hard to blend with the glove. So I actually have all these gloves lying around with the tips cut off the finger. And I'll wear this at home when I'm doing a lot of pastel, just to save my hands. And this works really well. Okay, back here, I don't want to do too much detail because it's way in the back there. And it'll look fun when we get the sky coming down into it. It'll be real fun. So I'm going to put some up in here. A little bit of this green. So I'm just hitting it really lightly, just putting in kind of a scumbling shapes back in here. These trees have a lot of gold in them, so I'm going to bring gold in there. A little bit in here. And it's fun. Remember to watch how these kind of fall down the dunes, how these plants grow down. So bring them down into the dunes. Leave the purple though, don't cover up all your purple. A little bit down in here. A little bit following more the direction of the plants because this is going to have a little bit more detail into it. This is kind of a big scrubbly thing here. Not sure what I'm doing up here yet, so I'll just put in some color and I can always go back over it. This, I'm just going to make some of this like this because it really has some direction going in there. And I'll just bring this in here. Plant. Okay, now I'm starting to have fun. Now you're just going to start playing with colors. I love this color. I'm going to bring some of this in here too. The bushes here, right along this pathway here, there's some. Don't want to cover up my purple all the way, but there's some fun stuff happening with the grasses there. A little bit over in here. This Nupastel, even though it's a hard pastel, it has some fun. It's helping to blend the pieces a little bit, the other layers underneath it. And I'm just going to scrub this in here. See, I'm starting to create the shapes of my trees in here. You see a little bit happening in here. Maybe just a little bit direction, because this one's a little bit closer to us. You can see how the bushes are starting to take some shape. This I'm just going up and down because this is this grubby stuff that's just poking up into here. I don't want this in my piece. That's fun. And this is fun. It's going up to the hill here. Now you can always clean if you start touching another pastel on your piece. You can bring it, clean it off. So this on the end has some fun scrubby stuff in here. So I'm just going to add it in. I'm going to just add a little bit of this red because it's just kind of a fun, it adds a little bit of fall color in there. Some down in here, some of the tree over here. I can always cover it back up if I get too much of it in there. And a little bit down in the bottom of this scrubby stuff. Go back in with my, here's another green. Maybe I'll try this one in too and see what it does. back in with my dark if I want to and add some more dark in here. Trying to be careful to leave some of this fun stuff that's happening in the background there. Okay, I'm going to leave this right here for now because I want to put in my sky. My hands are dirty, so I'm just wiping them down. So I picked up my sky colors and I added some white to that. I'm going to clean off my white on the paper towel a little bit. I go through a lot of white. Looking at these clouds, what I'm going to start with, I've got some of my dark in there already, so I'm just going to start with like a light blue, clean it off a little bit, and I'm just going to start putting in. This again is just that light touch, and I'm just sort of following the shape of the cloud, but you know, it really doesn't matter so much. There's a big piece in here. Sort of getting that lighter area in. So, big piece going across here. Each of my pieces that I've done on this, practicing, my clouds have looked different at everyone, but they all have some unique qualities. Bring this across here. It's just like a stripe. These clouds have just kind of gone striped across the sky. A little bit down here. Okay. And I'm going to go with I'm cleaning off my piece just so it stays clean on my paper towel. I'm going to go down in here and give this stripe that I see across the sky. And I go on top of it. Now what I'm going to do with my trees is I'm actually going to create little sky holes in little bits with my tree. I have to keep this piece clean. So I'm kind of going around my trees, but also into my trees and letting them, where you see the sky through the branches. If I start pulling off, I'm cleaning it on my paper towel as I go through and do this. And you can make little marks and little sky holes into your trees. See the trees in the background there starting to come. It doesn't have to be real detailed because it's way in the background for you. I'm going to bring this down here. Do sky holes there. I'm going to do a few sky holes in here. And I keep cleaning off my piece on the paper towel so I don't pull up the purple and the dark into the sky. I'm going to bring this across. Go in here, make some sky holes. So something like that. Just kind of getting the sky in. So this was a nice big piece that I wrote because it's easier for me to handle this way. Do a little bit of sweeping in here too. Okay, I've got that in. I'm going to take a little bit of a darker color and I'm going to go underneath these clouds. Start building up those layers in the clouds. And I can take this is where I take my finger and I can do a little bit of blending at this point too. Do the fluffy clouds. I'm just giving that color a little bit of a darker color underneath, blending it up with my finger a little bit. I'm seeing a little bit of pink in these clouds too, so I'm cleaning off my pink one because my fingers are dirty with blue. I'll bring a little bit of this pink in here. And basically, I'm the artist, so I can basically do what I want to. Just add some excitement in here. There's this fun where the jets have gone through and created some fun stuff happening. So I'm just going to blend those in. Oops, I have a little bit of purple in there. I can also go back with my darker colors. I actually want a darker color, and I can go back and add a little more definition in my clouds too. Blend these in a little bit. This is where I see a little bit of the darker sky showing through. I use my finger a lot. Actually, I should probably cut a hole in my gloves and my baby finger. I'm just bringing this down and blending a little bit because bring that smooth feeling. And I have my pastel pencil too. I might just bring a little bit of this color in here, a little bit more. This beautiful blue in here that I sort of lost when I covered it up. This is more blended. You can see it's just more fuzzy out here, so I'm just going to blend it in a little. And I'm going to take this bright white and just go on top and just give it a little bit more. I actually pulled, not the bright white, I pulled kind of a beigey white, but it's a pretty color. And it'll pick up a little bit of color of the sand. Let's see how this is just adding a little bit of definition to the clouds. This part I don't like to blend because I like that, just that scrumbly look. One thing about pastels, they're just fun to play with. That blue up into a little bit more. And we can keep going on the sky and doing lots of stuff with this sky. There is some sky. I might go a little bit up in here just to get a little bit more. That's kind of cool. Just a little bit more in here. Just for some balance. You can fool with that sky. Keep fooling with it. I'm gonna go down to the sand now. Just kind of go back and forth between what I'm doing to see how it works with itself and blends out. Your pastels will come with paper, and I usually take the paper off right away. What I did, I wish I'd started this way back, but I made myself a little notebook. And before I pulled all the papers off, I got the numbers and the brand, and I made little boxes and put in my colors and numbers. Because it's hard to tell when you're ordering online what colors things are. And since this is one of my favorite colors, I wanted to make sure I could order it again. So now I'm going to put in some of my sand. I'm just going to carve it in here, what I see. And the sand just sort of makes the whole piece pop, I think. I'm just carving it in. And clean it on my towel if it gets dirty. I'm going to go down in here. And you can actually pull this down into things just to give it a little bit of a feeling like a spiky bush. I'm going to leave a little bit of that purple in there. I'll bring this in here. Well, mine might not look exactly like the picture, but... And I love this flow that's going on in here. Again, I've got to keep cleaning my... And maybe we'll see a little bit that's peeking through over here. We're going trees. And the sand. I'm going to kind of flow it, and I want some of the purple showing too. If I bring it down over the bushes, it gives them kind of that spiky feel to the bushes. This little pine tree, I can bring spikes into it and give a little pine tree effect to it. Not so much over there, but there's a little bit down in here. A little bit showing through maybe in here a little bit. And I can spike it down in there just to give it that feel. A little bit in here, going up the side. I've kind of in my picture a little bit here, just for fun. It's not in the photo, but so you can start to see there's a flow, and it's fun to put in maybe some little shadow areas, a little bit of this peach too. The sun's hitting this part directly, but some of this can be a little bit in shadow. So I'm going to do a little bit of the peach, just for some excitement. Okay, we're getting close to being done with this piece. We can start adding, you can leave it like this, or you can start adding, let's see, maybe a fun color. This would be a fun color just to pop some of this out of here. Some of those trees that are, have a beautiful fall color in them. A little bit of the sun's hitting in here. This bush. A little bit more sand in here. Then I could actually add a little bit of this peach in here too. Just for some fun. Getting a lot of detail in there. I love this scrubby stuff in here. So using the edge can give a little bit of interest to your piece if you want. Especially down here in the foreground. We could even bring a little bit of blue down in here just for fun. Just to add some excitement. I wish I didn't bring a brighter green. Oh, maybe this pencil. No, that one's not going to work. I might try to get this not so dotty. A little bit more. This detail back there. Basically, you just keep playing with it and clean my fingers off because they get different colors on them. I'll bring this down a little bit. Just watching the flow of these clouds where the wind has caught them and scattered them. A dramatic sky out there. Okay, that's probably, there's a lot, I could tweak it and sit here and look at it, but I just wanted to do a fun painting today. This is probably, we could call it quits for now. But you can see the different strokes you can use and the fun that you can have, and leaving the purple with the shadows. wanted to show you another way that I completed this piece. Here is another, you can see that piece with the purple. Here's one with a pink. The same picture that I did, it's this picture, only I used a pink background, and this is how I started. This is a photograph of my painting as I was working on. I actually did a really brilliant pastel pink, orangey pink over the whole thing and did the alcohol wash. And then I took a dark green and did my shadows in the dark green and did an alcohol wash. And then over top of that, I just started adding my colors. And you can see I left the pink in the sky because it made it more dramatic and fun. And I just started building up the layers, made a little bit brighter colors in the trees. Here's another one. And just started, I have a little bit less bushes in this and a little bit looser strokes. Oh, and yeah. And then I just added in the end, I just added some birch trees in the background, but left a lot of the pink. So my shadows are in pink, but it made a really fun piece. Another piece I did, I recreated this same one, only I used more greens. Instead of the purple, I used a dark green and a turquoisey green to do my underpainting on the beach. And so that gave it a whole different look to it. So there's lots of fun things. And this one is the completed piece that we just did today with the purple. This one I did a few days ago, and you can see how I left the alcohol wash a little bit more with the browns. I put in another layer of brown and just let it drip down, and it's got these fun drips from the alcohol wash, and then just paint it on top. So there's lots of fun things you can do with pastel. The same piece recreated in a bunch of different ways with a bunch of different feeling, depends on the color you used. It depends on how smooth you blend it or how wild you leave your strokes and the emotion that you want to create. So I hope you enjoyed our pastel class.